All right, welcome back to Lower Keys Living, everybody. Hope you've had a good week. Got a fish on, got to actually have a nice big fish on here. And if you follow my videos, you can probably tell what I was out fishing for here today just by looking at that spinning rod that's mounted in the center of the screen there. And what we were doing, but I was out trolling for mahi here. But on that spinning rod, you'll notice I have that bucktail jig. Always tell people if you're going out for mahi and working weed lines where there might be some other debris around, always have a jig, and I always keep a second spinning rod with a different type of lure on there, or sometimes I'll use a heavy deep jig, high-speed jig, just so I can get down deep in a hurry, just to see what's underneath those, because a lot of time those bigger mahi will be down deeper. But bring those as a quick way to get mahi instead of trolling back and forth. And you can test what's underneath some of the big weed patches, because if they're mahi, guarantee they will chase that bucktail jig. So always have one of those on board when you're fishing for mahi. But today I am talking about the outriggers. I've had loads of emails and comments about why I use my Gunwale mounted outriggers. Two simple reasons, and pretty easy to understand. Number one, simplicity. If you watch my videos, I'm usually out fishing by myself about 70% of the time, especially when I'm out deep trolling. I like to head out after work later in the day. Hard to find people that at the end of the day coming home from work that have got the energy to go out and come home after dark fishing, but that's my favorite time to go. It's my de-stress. Number two, aside from simplicity, is safety. I've been on boats with the taco outriggers on rough days, lines get tangled up high, and just having to stand on the gunwale or reaching up overhead where you're extended up above a rocking boat makes it tough. Now, if you notice that little blue turquoise line, I'll point that out later. I've got a little slide presentation that'll explain that. But I wanted to point out my seawall there, because one of the things you have to do if you're taking these the outriggers off, is a place to store these long poles. And I'm lucky enough I've got that big long seawall that's raised up, so I just leave those set up on there when I'm not using them. They're going to be around for a while. I can set them up there, they're up and out of the way and not causing a trip hazard. So I'm always taking those off when we're going out refishing or deep dropping for grouper. No need to have those outriggers in place. Here's a little closer look at the setup here. You can see the outrigger is in its slot there on the left. And you'll notice just to the right, I'll put my right foot down here by it, that little camelback cleat right there. That's what you hook your outrigger lines to when it's deployed. I'll show you just a simple slide it out, you rotate it down, and then lock it back in place, and it is deployed. Then you just take that line, the bungee line, to keep the tension on your outrigger line in place. You just pull that down and you hook it right into that camelback hook. And it is simple as that. Again, with the taco outfitters, anything that's mounted up above, I don't like having to reach up, especially on rough days, rocking around. And there's a couple other reasons why I don't like them. Really quick here before I jump into a little more detailed and a bit of a slideshow I've got for you. You can see these outriggers coming into view here and about where the lures are. Right, so here we go. This is my setup. I see boat is here at the dock. Just prepping this, getting ready to head out. Both outriggers are they're in their upright position here, one on each side. They're locked in place. And then when I go to deploy these when I'm out there, they just rotate down and lock back into the gunwale. So they're set up just for demonstration. One of the things I don't like about the hardtop mounted outriggers when they're running out here, most people will run this line that I've got that goes down to my gunwale. Will come from out here, and they'll either mount it up high or they'll mount it down here so you can reach your pulleys going out on your outrigger. I'm 6'3", and I found on boats that have those out that do that, when I'm walking back and forth, I'm always catching my head on those. Just a bit of annoyance. I guess if you have them, you get used to that. But again, don't need to worry about that with this particular setup. And I love these Gunwale mounted outriggers just for the simplicity. So why use outriggers? First and foremost, gives you a better spread of lures. Gets those lures spread out, getting more fish involved with it, and also gets your lures out of the wake and the prop wash of the boat, especially for tuna. Tuna don't like coming into your prop wash area or inside the wake. I've caught them in there, but have far more luck on the outside on the outrigger. So getting them outside that area, getting them into clean water. And it also allows you to more run rods while reducing the risk for tangles. When I'm out by myself and trolling, I typically run 4 lines, and I'll show you my setup here at the end of these slides. Why I like the Gunwale mounted outriggers: first and foremost, the first two go hand in hand. One, they're super easy to use, really easy to set up and deploy. Safety-wise, you never need to get above the Gunwale, either to fix tangles, to extend the poles, or to retrieve the line clip. Everything's down low, everything's done down at my waist level on these, down below the Gunwale, so super safe, always inside the boat and secure. Also, they're super easy to remove from the boat. I can take them off, get them out of the way. There's no extra clutter on the boat. Also, because there's a clip on the bottom of these outrigger poles, the line's either clipped there, or when they're deployed, it's clipped to a camelback hook mounted on the gunnel. So there's no lines to coil up, nothing to get tangled up on you. You just clip them in place where you want them, and you go. And again, like I said earlier, there's no overhead lines, nice clear runs up and down the boat. Downside of them, storage. I don't like anything laying on my dock. Just nothing to trip on, just don't like the clutter. I'm lucky I've got a seawall right alongside my dock. That's about 2.5 feet above my dock, and I've got plenty of space there. I just lay those on top of my seawall on the gravel where they're nice and safe and up and out of the way. Mine are set up with only 1 line. I could add more, but if you like to run multiple lines off your outriggers, my setup is not set up for that. I just run 1 line, but because I fish alone, I would never run 2 lines on a single outrigger. I manage my workload when I'm out by myself, and just to keep it as simple as possible, but keep it as effective as possible. Another downside, when that outrigger is mounted on the Gunwale, if you're fighting a fish and you got to move forward on the boat, I've had this happen only once with a massive sailfish, where I had the sailfish on and it was moving faster than my boat was. Had to work myself to the bow of the boat. Again, I had to reach my pole around the outside of that outrigger to get forward of the boat. Fish was pulling too hard for me to get it up and over the outrigger, so I had to one-hand that pull around the outriggers for a brief second, which is always scary when you got a big fish on. So here is my setup when I'm running these, and I've shown this in other videos before on trolling. I do this pretty much no matter what I am trolling for. If I'm going for bigger game fish, swordfish, these I put back further, and I'll run some teasers out here, but by and large on my outriggers I always run surface lures, and 99% of the time I'm running the feathered billy baits with the cone head on it. Just super effective, and just have those out back and they're skipping across the clean water. Really effective tool for just about any type of fish. On the quarters of my boat, I run deep diving lures, diving plugs. Occasionally I'll run a rig ballyhoo using a weight or a planer, and I'll put those no more than 75 to 100 feet back. The rods that I use for running these deep diving lures, I've got a little heavier line on. I usually have 50 feet of heavyweight mono directly on that lure. So when that hits the water and I get to my braided line, I'll wait for that braided line to feed out. Once that braided line hits the water, I know I've got that 50 feet of mono out front here in the water, so that's pretty consistent. So it's between 75 and 100 feet back behind the boat. And I keep these in here shorter, so as you're making your turn and these lines will start crossing behind the boat, these are always staying outside, so they're not getting crossed up, they're turning with the boat. If you have these guys longer and they're diving, they're going to cross over and tangle you up. So always keep these inside ones a little bit shorter. So that's my basic setup, and I'm going to jump back into a couple of video clips here, so stay tuned. All right, after that we are back on the water. Here you can see both outriggers are deployed. You can see how these go out. That first pole there is what's feeding into the outrigger, gets to the ball at the very tip of the outrigger. and running and how that whole system works right there. Nice and easy, super simple to set up and operate, especially when you're out by yourself. Other side, you can see the same thing on the other side with that rod right there. There's some weeds going by. That's why you're not seeing the extra rods on the corners of the boat. Super weedy, so I'm only running those cone-headed billy baits, pulling them on the surface so they skip through and slide right through the weeds without catching weeds, which is why I use those. Here, I'm getting ready to pull lines in and retract the outriggers. So again, everything's down, chest level or lower, right there inside the gunnel. I'm not having to reach up for lines, especially on a rocky day. I don't like that, again, especially when you're out by yourself. Keep everything down in the boat, nice and safe, super simple. So here I'm just removing the outrigger from that slot. It was a little jammed here in this video, but set it up and clip that line back to the base of the pole, and that is it. Now I'm just going to adjust the speed of the boat and set my heading because I'm going to start bringing lines here in a minute. So that's why I'm out of view, just slowing the boat down, bringing the lines in. And now I'm back to that big mahi here. Thanks for staying in. Hope you were excited to see this fish come in because it is a nice mahi. It took me a bit to bring this in. Line was about 200 feet out when this hit, and it took some line with it. But fought the whole way in, had a couple of good jumps on it. Finally got it tired out where it's starting to get closer to the boat here. You notice I do have the boat just at idle speed, and that is to keep my other lines, tension on the other lines, one, so they're not sinking, they're not getting tangled up, and I can keep it straight. There I just walked forward because I took the boat out of idle because the fish was starting to cross the stern of the boat, and I did not want it getting tangled up in the props while they were running and cut the line from the moving props. So switch that over. Now I'm just working to pull this fish back over to the left side of the boat. You can see it's right in there. You'll see this gets closer. It takes actually a jump right over the back corner of the boat as I'm getting ready here. I was going to go for the gaff. You'll see it here in a second. Comes up and out of the water and over the back of the boat right there. That would caught me by surprise, and I thought I was going to lose it at that second. But managed to keep that one on and managed to get this one gaffed pretty easily. But again, this is a nice mahi. Ended up about 40, just under 45 inches long. Nice cooler fish, lots of great meat on this fish. If you're down here, I am finding plenty of big mahi out just south of American Shoals between 500 and 650 feet of water. In close, I've been getting nothing but little schoolies that I've been throwing back. But again, this is a nice size mahi here. Lots of meat on this one, and got a few of these in this size range on this particular evening. So pretty excited about it. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week on Lower Keys Living. And grouper season opens next week, so hopefully we'll be putting grouper in the cooler next week for your video.